Welcome to Sunday Morning with Trevor Phillips. In 1992, Bill Clinton's campaign manager, James Carville, famously told his troops to focus on one thing. It's the economy, stupid. But just 2 years later, Carville lamented the discovery that there were economic forces before which even the most powerful politicians were helpless. In this case, the bond markets, the people who lend governments the money to fund their campaign promises. I used to think that if there was reincarnation, I wanted to come back as the president or the pope, he said, and went on, but now I'd like to come back as the bond market. You can intimidate everybody. Rachel Reeves is putting a brave face on the signal that 6 months in, business has fallen out of love with Labour. But no one doubts that the outcome of this week's rise in the government's borrowing costs is likely to be either a fresh round of tax rises or deep cuts in spending on public services. It's yet another lesson for a government, most of whose members have never held ministerial office before. Labour's newbies are having to come to terms with just how limited their powers are. And that's before we even begin to think about Elon Musk, who it seems can make pretty much anyone dance to his tweets. Let's hear first from the government. A little earlier, I spoke to the Science Secretary, Peter Kyle. Peter Kyle, should the City Minister, Tulip Siddiq, stand down until the Prime Minister's ethics advisor clears her of any impropriety?
I think she's done exactly the right thing. She's referred herself. That inquiry needs to go through. I think that that's the appropriate way forward. I'm giving it all the space it needs to do. I'll be listening for the outcome, as the Prime Minister will be.
Well, it's a bit of a contrast, isn't it? Because if this had happened a year ago to a Conservative City Minister, you guys would have been all over it, yelling, resign. Why shouldn't she just stand back while this goes on? One of the things that we now know is that she didn't go on the trip to China, though she should have done as the City Minister, because of this furor. She can't do her job properly.
Well, actually, let's look back at what did happen. I remember calling for an investigation into Priti Patel's Home Secretary for allegations of bullying. They had to be dragged to that inquiry. I gave the inquiry space to go through it. The results came out. She was found guilty, and no action happened. I think the right way to go through this is to allow the authorities to investigate. We have given more powers to those authorities to do independent investigations, and you know full well when it comes to Keir Starmer, he will listen to what the authorities say.
So you're assuring me that despite the fact that she couldn't go on an important trip relevant to her job, she can still do the job of City Minister?
Well, we had the Chancellor of the Exchequer going to China and representing Britain in a really assiduous way, doing a great job representing Britain on the international stage. With Tulip, she has referred herself straight away to this. There is a process underway, and we know full well it will be a functional process, and the outcomes of it will be stuck to by the Prime Minister and this government. A complete contrast to what we've had in the past.
All right, there are some people who think that actually Chancellor should have been here and Tulip Siddiq should have been there, because this week the government's borrowing costs rose to levels not seen for decades. Now, last time Chancellor sat in that chair, she said to me, we've wiped the slate clean, we don't need to come back for more tax rises. Are you going to hold to that promise?
The spending envelope has been set. Look, I'm running a government department, I'm going to operate...
No, I'm asking about tax rises, not spending.
Well, my job as running a government department is to stick with the spending envelope. Now, Rachel, the Chancellor, has set that spending envelope. It is within the fiscal rules. Those fiscal rules are not going to change. They're not going to be broken. This country will be returned to the financial stability for which Britain is always known until the Conservatives came in and trashed our economy and trashed the rules, and their word could not be taken as in. Now, I don't comment. You know the government doesn't comment on the ins and outs and the ups and downs of
I'm not asking you to comment. I'm just asking you to...
What I will say
I'm just asking you to...
What I will say is I agree with Ed Conway, who is your economics editor and reporter, who said that what's happening in this country is very in line with what we're seeing in like-minded countries, in particular in the United States.
Listen, so you can throw Ed Conway to me, as much as you like. He's a brilliant guy, but he can't answer the question that I've asked you, which is that when the Chancellor says we wipe the slate clean, we're not coming back for any more tax rises, is that still true?
Well, when the Chancellor speaks, She speaks for government, and my job is to make sure that I put her words into action. So I'm keeping a tight grip on my own department so that we don't have to come back with the additional pressures. Now, look, let's look at what we're doing, Trevor. Over the summer, we got everything out into the open. At the autumn budget, the Chancellor reset our finances, she fixed the foundations, and now I am sitting here on the cusp of announcing an investment programme into our country that is going to get our infrastructure upon which we will build the economy of the future.
I want to come to that.
For the simple reason, we do not accept the vice-lock grip, the cul-de-sac that the previous administration drove us into, where the only choices were on the back of high tax, low growth, was whether you cut or whether you raise taxes.
I know you guys
have to get growth into the economy.
I know you guys want to take us back into the history of the Conservative Party in government and all of that.
Well, we're living
but
still.
Let's just talk about what you are doing. The point is that the Chancellor said that when she spoke here, that she was wrong before the election to say that there wouldn't be more taxes and so on, because she didn't know it all. So actually, you didn't have it all out in the open. After the budget, she came in and she said there will be no more tax rises. Now, the point I'm really trying to get at here is, was it an error when she brought forward the budget to impose the tax rises, to give us the doom and gloom message? Because what's happened since then is that there's been no growth. Inflation is rising very slightly, and business is unimpressed. Was the budget a mistake?
Because of the budget, I am able to sit here today and start the process of unveiling a radical reform of the way our country is structured. We will build the foundations of the digital infrastructure going forward, and into the future, digital infrastructure is going to sit alongside gas and electricity for the importance it has for our country. No, Trevor, listen, it is important because
you'd answer the question I asked.
I am answering the question.
Was the budget, were the tax rises a mistake, as most business organisations are telling you?
If we hadn't had that budget, I could not be sitting here talking about an investment programme that will get our country fit for the future and in the areas where growth is going to come from. We always said we couldn't fix the country in 6 months. After an election, you don't go back to zero. You don't start from a clean sheet. You start from where their predecessors left off. And they left us with a broken economy, public services on their knees, and our international relationships in tatters. And we have fixed the foundations, and now we're building on them.
OK, that's the fourth time you've told me that in this interview.
Well, it's about the fourth time you've asked me the question.
We don't need to return to it. But the point is this. After 6 months of your government, we are at the bottom of the table for growth in G4. And I just want to ask you straightforwardly, because the markets will open in 24 hours, what's your message to the lenders who think that their money is safer in America and Germany and are therefore pushing up our borrowing costs?
You know full well that I would not comment on those sorts of interactions with the market, because the market needs to be independent of government.
Why not? The market's what... Listen,
but I do have a message, and the message is the same for every single person who's listening to that programme. We inherited our finances, where we had a massive black hole, we had unfunded spending commitments. We have fixed those foundations.
Sorry to interrupt you, you've told me this 5 times now.
No, but
and they know that. They've heard that. And what are you saying to them about now?
What they haven't heard is our investment programme, which I am here talking about for the very first time. Right. Nobody has heard about the Sovereign AI Unit, which will be bringing together the constituent elements that we see in Silicon Valley, which we have in our country, if only they were coordinated, if only they had a champion.
My point is, you're not even going to get a hearing if you don't confront this. Look at the growth rates. The Americans are nearly 1%. Look at where we are, 0% with Italy. Unless you actually confront that, no matter how many promises you make about what you're going to do, that's the reality that the markets are looking at.
But that is the reality we inherited 6 months ago.
No, that's your reality now.
That is the reality we inherited.
No, that's your reality after tax rises.
That is the reality we inherited, and that is the reality we've had for 14 years. Highest tax for 80 years, lowest growth. We've been stuck in that vice. We are trying to break it. Now, yes, the Chancellor raised taxes, but look at where we're investing. The R&D budget for our country up 8.5%. We now have investment programmes for building 1.5 million homes. We have regulatory reform.
I really do
All
want
of
to
these things are going through in quick fashion.
I really do.
They will hit the economy. They will make sure that we can get investment into the country. We'll create the jobs in construction.
I really do want to get onto the territory that you want to talk about, but we do have to deal with this. Let's go somewhere halfway positive. The Chancellor's in China today. I think she's gone to Shanghai this morning. She's coming back, she says, with £600 million worth of investment over the next 5 years, and that's something that she's very proud of. But let's put that in context. In 1 year, 2023, Indonesia landed 60 times as much Chinese investment, 7 billion. Hungary, 40 times as much as us. Peru, 30 times as much as that 600 million. It's not much to write home about, is it?
It's the start. And we have to start rebuilding the relationship with China in a way that delivers for our economy, but also make sure that it keeps our country safe and resilient. These are difficult issues to manage. I think what we've seen is for the Chancellor to go over there, represent Britain on the world stage, come back with solid commitments for investment, but she's also managed to raise the human rights issues that I think everybody in this country is concerned about. Now, the alternative is this, that we sit here and we don't engage. We don't come back with even £600 million, which would lead to future solid investment into the future. Is the answer that it's not big enough just to do nothing? Because that's what the Tories are saying. They are saying she shouldn't go, we shouldn't have any engagement at all. Well, but it is our fourth biggest trading partner.
We don't have to deploy the Tories here. No, I don't think this says that you shouldn't engage. I'm simply saying that it's not much of a result. We give China access to our markets and our technology. I've read the readout from the meetings that she had. Chinese students populate our universities. We complain about the invasion of Russia, their treatment of Uyghurs, surveillance of students here. They ignore us. It's hard to see what we're getting out of this, 120 million quid a year, in exchange for all the things that they get out of this relationship.
Trevor, that isn't the sum total of the relationship that we have with China. This is in additional investment that has been done just in the last couple of days, and it is the start. We will compete, we will challenge, and we will cooperate where necessary with China. And all of those things that Rachel has done on this trip. And it is the start, and we will come back and build on it in a responsible way that brings to bear the best opportunities of the British economy on the world trading stage, but also make sure that our interests are
I'm only hustling you up because I want to get on to your topic, which is AI. You're putting a lot on what you call a revolutionary plan for AI. What's revolutionary about it?
Well, it's revolutionary because it is reconfiguring our economy and getting the foundations right for the future, for which we'll be building on. Over the next couple of days, particularly tomorrow, the Prime Minister is going to launch the AI Action Plan. Today, I'm talking about the sovereign aspects to that. You know, when you look at the incredible success that there is in Silicon Valley about getting innovation and then upscaled onto the national in America and then world stage with the scale of innovation that's there, that is transforming lives but creating enormous amounts of wealth. All of the constituent elements of that you see in this country, but it's not coming together, adding up to more than some of its parts. And what we find is incredible innovation because we're very, very good at creating new products, services and technologies. But so often, when it gets to a certain size, it has to go to America to get funded. What we want to do is bring those things together and coordinate it with a new unit that it reports directly to myself and the Prime Minister so that we can bring together and make the most of these assets.
You want to turbocharge this new technology. One of the things that we know about all new technologies is that they cost jobs. They may create jobs, but they cost jobs, and there's a transition which can be really painful. What's the implication of this for the jobs market?
There will be disruption caused by AI going forward, but you're right that it will also create a lot of new jobs, and it will also, if it's used wisely, It will make workers' lives in the workplace much more efficient, effective and satisfying, because some of the mundane tasks will be taken care of. Now, it's an important question, because I am not someone who thinks that we should just sit back and allow this technology to wash over our economy and pick up the pieces afterwards. I get into government for a reason. We're a Labour government for a purpose, and that is to make sure that everyone from every background uses this technology safely, and safety is baked in from the outset, but we fully explore the potential and we use the power of government to make sure that equity is built in from the outset and that everyone from every background benefits equally.
I want to ask you about this issue of safety, because you say that actually previous governments have been obsessed with the safety at the expense, not your words, but implication, of innovation. If you want to reduce, if you like, the safety regulation of AI, what risks are you planning to expose us to?
I'm not reducing any safety risks. In fact...
Well, you just said they were too obsessed with safety.
But my point is that safety is the first step. With the Tories, it was the only step. You have safety for a purpose, to protect people, to make people feel safe, and when people feel safe, they embrace technology. If you don't get safety right, you don't get what comes afterwards. What I want to do is use safety so that people feel protected and safe, and then able to fully explore all the potential that this new AI revolution is going to present to people. Because
there are going to be costs here, of course, and we're in uncharted waters, but some of the risks are already becoming clear. And one I just want to explore with you is, it's been said that training AI systems demands the equivalent of half of the UK's water supply. How are you going to ensure that we have enough water for the machines and for us?
Because it requires real planning. And when it comes to the energy requirements of AI, tomorrow we'll be talking a lot more about that and some of the solutions to the strategic planning that we need to make as a country in order to fully capture it.
But we've seen the risk of this in California right now, where actually the reservoirs not coming on stream have cost people homes and lives.
But Trevor, there are risks either way. There is a risk if we miss out on this revolution, and AI is going to completely transform our economy and society and our ability to actually fulfil our potential as individuals. All of this. Now, if we miss out on being able to be an actor in this, to be able to seize the opportunities and create this technology domestically, then we will sit by and have to buy it all off the shelf from other countries, mostly from the United States. So we have to get this right. So yes, there are lots of challenges we have to get right. That's why I'm acting now. That's why this plan that you'll see tomorrow and the announcements we'll be making in the coming weeks, they're going to get our country right up there at the forefront. We are the third largest market for AI currently. If we carry on as we are, as we've inherited, we'll be buying everything off the shelf, but not being an actor on the international stage, leading this revolution, creating the wealth here, as well as just buying it all off the shelf from others.
It's quite hard to imagine you talking about this new technology without mentioning two key words, Elon Musk. It's clear this week that Musk has the power to make British politicians stand to attention. Neither the Prime Minister or Home Secretary would have said anything, for example, about child rape gangs had it not been for Musk. Are you comfortable about government by social media?
Well, I'm going to correct you on one thing. We brought in a child safety and welfare bill last week. That implemented...
Come on. The Prime Minister would not have said anything about this issue had he not been challenged, indeed, by our own Beth Rigby on Monday.
I tell you
and
what,
Yvette Cooper would not have gone to the House and talked about it on Monday night had it not been for Musk.
Let's ground this conversation in the people most affected by it, which is the victims. They didn't want more words, they wanted actions. And last week we saw a bill which implemented page 1 of the J Review, which said that multi-agency working together needed to be addressed, because that was one of the key things that had led to the situation not being uncovered in the first place. That was addressed in the bill that we introduced into Parliament last week that was opposed by the Tories. Now, the victims need action. So let's not focus just on words, because I'll tell you what, in all of the words that I've seen that have been out there in the ether and in the media, so few of it was aimed on the victims and what the victims needed. There's been 7 reports. One of them took £200 million and 7 years to do. Let's get cracking with implementing it, which is what this government is doing.
I would love to talk more about that particular issue, but that isn't actually what I asked you about. I asked you about Elon Musk. Is it true that, as reported, that the Home Office is monitoring Elon Musk's posts for potential extremist content?
Not that I'm aware of.
And that isn't something that you would approve of?
I'm just not aware of it. So my department does not monitor individuals, but it does monitor the internet itself for trends in misinformation and trends in harmful content. And that is, as I say, not focused on individuals. That's not the work that we do, but we do try and monitor the focus of trends on the internet and then adjust accordingly. And look, with all of what we're seeing, we have legislation which protects people. Illegal content on the internet must be taken down. None of the rights and protections and safety features that we have now baked into our online activity are up for negotiation. You know, so let's see what unfolds. None of those things are ever going to be diminished by this government. We want to make sure we move forward with an online experience where people feel safe so they can fully explore all of the potential of online activity these days.
Peter Carl, thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, Trevor.